doing?
It's great, actually.
Campaign is also going
underway.
well. All the best with that then.
Thank you.
Anyway, let's get into our conversation this morning. And first up, the governor of the Bank of Ghana has responded to the minority on protests that were held on Tuesday morning to have him and his two deputies resign. And this was as a result of a report from the Bank of Ghana indicating that some 60.8 billion and more had been lost. In fact, they had recorded losses up to the tune of 60.8 billion. In fact, the minority says that's not the only reason they are asking him to step aside and step down with his deputies. They also don't understand why $250 million and more is being used to construct a new head office for the Bank of Ghana. We've heard from the BOG who says that it's because where they occupy at the moment is an earthquake-prone area and they needed to move into Ridge, which is less prone to the earthquake. But let's see what exactly he said. So Mr. Ernest, or Dr. Ernest Addison, spoke to Central Banking, which is an international business website, and he says that he's not going to resign. In fact, he says that the demonstration yesterday, which was on Tuesday, was completely unnecessary, adding that neither him nor his deputies will leave their jobs. And he says the minority in parliament have many channels to channel their grievances. And he goes on to talk about how the BOG provided monetary financing during 2020 and 2022 to meet specific crises, which he says is legal under the central bank law. You can read more on that on centralbanking.com. That's the website that granted him that interview. But let's listen to the MP for North Tongu, who describes this statement by the governor of the Bank of Ghana as disrespectful.
It's not for him to determine which democratic constitutional route that citizens of this country adopt. Demonstrations are part of our fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution. Today, he is calling people who are demonstrating hooligans. I mean, I really don't want to believe that those words, those insulting words, those derogatory words, those condescending words came from the governor of our central bank, a governor who has broken all laws. Elsewhere, he will be in jail long ago. This governor is virtually insulting all of us who believe that demonstrations are important tools in the democratic toolkit to make a point. And the people were out there on the street saying enough is enough because of your actions. Over 50,000 people have lost their jobs because of the recklessness of this government. After all of this, even has the courage to speak. And he will not even be contrite. He will not be apologetic. He will not plead with the Ghanaian people for forgiveness. He is insulting us that it is hooligans, uncivilized people who go on demonstrations. Myself, I can't believe this, that this governor will utter these words and describe members of parliament in such discourteous, condescending, insulting manner. But I can assure you and assure the good people of this country that this governor is not going to get away.
And that's Honorable Sam Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the MP for North Tongu, and he's not too happy with that statement that has been made. But Akosi, I'll come to you first of all, because he describes that as disrespectful. And of course, we're in a democratic state where people are allowed to protest. Protesting is not a crime. How then do you describe this as unnecessary?
Okay, so good morning to your viewers and to my co-panelists. In the last 48 hours, there's been a lot of conversation back and forth, especially on the protest. I believe that one of the things that I would like to state is that I believe Ghanaians are quite tired of some political conversations. They want to hear how we're going to get out of the economic challenges that government has admitted to, and government has articulated its strategy for recovery. Now, the protest, as described as an unnecessary protest, I align with that.
You align with?
I align with it being unnecessary. I do not align with the sentiment that it was hooligans and whatever. What other words? I don't want to repeat the words, but for the governor, if we were to even look at his tenure, and his achievement, it would speak to the fact that he's done some remarkable stuff. But when it comes to protests, and I had reservations even with the Occupy, which was a week and a half ago or so. I disagreed with the police picking up or arresting some of the protesters because they hadn't even started to protest. But you see, the thing about protesters...
You're talking about Occupy Julobi?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't like to use the word Julobi, but
I just need to
it.
mention that so that we don't confuse viewers. Okay.
The point is, sometimes when protests like this happen, the reason for the protest is not even clear, because you have so many people saying so many things. So, for instance, I can describe this protest as unprincipled. Why? Because one of the conveners, or one of the persons championing, stood and granted, which is Ato Forson, Honorable Ato Forson, granted an interview where he states that Parliament was unaware that the lending rate was going to increase even for government. But the point is, there are three bodies that sit and have a conversation. That is the BOG, that is the Ministry of Finance, and then Controller. Those three bodies, once they sit, they can agree what the terms are. Also, when he feigns ignorance again on some of the issues, I remember there's a letter dated 27th May 2020. I'll check quickly on that, where he states that government wasn't informed about BOG taking some steps. We all know that government has had challenges, and the lender of last resort, as in when all else fails, when all else, when there's an inability to meet the demands. What are the demands? Government payments of government salaries, payments of debt, which is not debt just accrued in this tenor. It goes all the way back to previous governments. The only place you can go to is the BOG. And the BOG cannot turn you away, because they are supposed to ensure that at least they are in a position to act as a buffer. Why are they a buffer? So, for instance, people talk about Sri Lanka. The reason why Sri Lanka collapsed was because their central bank didn't have buffers. So that's how you see a country disintegrate. Now, when it comes to the protest, and it pains me that the governor used the words he used. When people have certain concerns, irrespective of how they look, you can't invalidate their concerns, but you can put it in context. What is the context? One, if you tell me that he's mismanaged the economy, the question is, what functions does the BOG have? It's monetary oversight.
And advice.
Yes.
They need to advise.
So, and advice as well. So, for instance, even inflation came up as a conversation. Now, inflation, we sat here in this studio and we talked about the drivers of inflation. Depreciation of the cedi was one. Last year around this time, we saw the sharpest decline in the cedi. And it's not anything that you'd wish on any Ghanaian economy, especially when you're trying to recover and put in measures. The second is the food index, as in prices of foods and services. Price of food in itself, we saw the basket of goods that we had a conversation here: ice cream, dog meat, grapes. On a day-to-day, I don't even remember the last time I ate grapes, but the conversation, and these are the things that drive the numbers up. Why? Because some of them is imports. Why do we have that challenge? Because importers, especially around this time, need forex. We are always going to have that challenge. We get ahead of exporting more than importing. So the conversation for me, especially with how Ato Forson in particular, who at the time has been on the BOG board, has served on the board at one time in 2014. 2014, Ghana also recorded the worst ever performing currency globally. It's captured on Bloomberg. And these are the things where I feel that you are not the person to tell us. And this is where it becomes partisan. It makes it murky. And then you see the parochial interest embedded in the...
What is this parochial interest?
Of course they want to come to power. They want to come to power. Next year is an election year.
But is it true that losses have been incurred? 60.8 billion. Is it true that $250 million is being invested in the Bank of Ghana head office at a time when our economy is not doing well?
So a loss of 60 billion cedis was recorded. Addison has been a governor since 2017. His economic revenue, his economic record, our revenue has more than doubled since 2016. So total revenue increased from 32 billion in 2016 to 96.7 as at end of December 2022. So the issues are not like it has plagued him since his tenure of office. There's a period. The size of our economy has also doubled from a GDP value of 218.6 billion in 2016 to an estimated 577.3 by the end of 2022. And even more pragmatically, the number of active contributors on the SSNIT register has increased from 1.3 in 2016 to 1.8.
How are we relating this to?
I'm relating it to
the governor.
I'm relating it to the governor because if you make a claim that, and they use the word incompetent, he's run the economy down, and I'm giving you a period where he's chalked successes, you can't dismiss the fact that it is not him to blame solely for what is happening.
Do we blame him for the profits that the BOG has made?
We don't blame him for
profits. Not blame, but do we give him the credit that okay, thanks to him, BOG made some loss, some profits here and there. So if that's the case, why is it that when there's a loss, he doesn't want to take the blame?
The loss is not engineered by his own doing. We no matter how much we hate to hear it, COVID-19 was a once in 100 years pandemic. No matter how much we hate to hear it, the Russian-Ukraine war had its implications on economies. Central banks have struggled, and you see, when we say it, they laugh. But when you look at when we had challenges in 2014, when the cedi had appreciated, what were the external factors that were attributed to it? I don't remember a pandemic in 2014, but we recorded the worst performing currency ever. What reasons were ascribed to it?
Yes, but you got the most money.
This government
during COVID.
When you say we got the most money, I believe the finance minister has articulated what that money was spent on. Now let's talk about
the Auditor General has also put out a report indicating how some of these monies were misappropriated.
Yes, but Auditor General captures issues, and institutions always have response to these issues. It's not like money went missing. And these are conversations that we have year on year, but it's fine. Bank of England, for instance, as a central bank, generated a loss of £200 million. Bank of Ghana, 60.81 billion cedis. The 60.81 billion cedis is not as a result of a one-time, it's not a loss spread over his tenure from 2016 or 2017. And when it comes to your turn, I think that you can...
Because please learn from me, because your time is actually up. I want to move on to...
Yes. Yeah. It is well documented that no matter how much we hate to hear it, it was these two things that brought us to our knees, that made the Ministry of Finance turn to the Bank of Ghana as a lender of last resort. It is not outside the remit of the law for them to do so. Now, protest or not, they've had their protests. There's conversations about numbers. Most importantly, what is worrying is some of the things that they highlighted is not what the Bank of Ghana has to.
Like what?
So, for instance, you talk about inflation. It's not the Bank of Ghana alone that determines inflation.
But they have a hand in it.
When they have a hand in it, no, granted, but it is not solely. Inflation is a mixture of things. It's a mix, and the thing about economics is there's not a one conversation when it comes to a problem.
But if they printed money, Akosua, if they printed money, we're told that is one of the reasons why inflation skyrocketed. Because there was more money chasing fewer goods.
No. So they printed money because governments needed that support. Balance of payment support. Why? Because there were debts to pay, there were obligations to meet.
But that led to a high inflation.
It would lead to it would contribute to a high inflation. But it's not necessarily his fault that the economy is where it is. It's not.
Nanaya, please come in for me, because, I mean, clearly you're hearing from Akosua says that it's not his fault that we're here today. If you look at the statement that the Bank of Ghana also the time when they are that out of 60 billion that they recorded as losses, over 40 billion of that was as a result of
no, I was whispering to myself and I was doing my calculation.
My own tip. So I also reserve the right to also share.
So you have to concentrate here. So don't listen.
And I should apologize now. Please, let's carry on.
Bella, you see the words that I was shocked when I saw it. That today are you telling us that we cannot demonstrate? Bella, we were hit with, Ghana was hit with a myriad of demonstrations from 2012 to 2016. I remember even at the PURC, the TUC could actually demonstrate. And the last time I was speaking to Yalban, he was I think at the time he was the Deputy Secretary General, and Asamoah was the Secretary General. I asked him, where are your demonstrations with these high tariffs? The least opportunity, there was a demonstration. There was AFAG by OPK, there was all my Occupy Ghana. So many demonstrations. So why is it that today? And the demonstrations were also laced with a lot of insults. Why is it that today, if Ghanaians want to demonstrate, you call them hooligans? These are the people who voted for you to become governor. If the people who are hooligans today didn't go and queue to vote for the MPP government, the governor of the Bank of Ghana wouldn't have had the opportunity to say, because he wouldn't have been the governor, for him to call us hooligans. I was a bit disappointed because I have a lot of respect for him. I don't know him. I judge him by the personality. The demeanor he brings across looks very noble. But for him to have gone to such a low level, you see, when Honorable Ablaka was speaking, he was talking about the parliamentarian. The man has told Ghanaians they are hooligans. Because the people who were at the grounds of the demonstration were not 137 people. They were more than 137. And they are Ghanaians. So for you to say they are hooligans and the occupation was unneeded, was the one that was done at the Flagstaff House at the time, Occupy Flagstaff House, by Occupy Ghana, was it needless or needful? Which included people like Kofi Bentil, the current finance minister, and all those people. Was it needful or it was needless? We need to be careful how we do things. We need to be careful. You see, when these things happen, you might be upset, you might not be happy with it, but you have to know how to speak. Because everything that is being said, he has not been able to come and say that it's a lie. Was there a loss or there was no loss? If you compare the UK to Ghana, the UK has a big economy. The UK is about 120 million people. How many are we? You can't compare the loss of the United Kingdom to the loss of Ghana. I mean, seriously, if you do things prudently, we might not be in some of the situations that we find ourselves. This 250 million office complex, you said Ridge. Ridge is one of the earthquake-prone areas in this country. So if you are talking about earthquake, that you are running away from earthquake, then you go into another earthquake-prone area. Then what is it?
But they said it's unlike the current location. And so whatever factors may lead to a more severe experience there
How long have
would
they
not
been
be
there?
the same in Ridge.
How long have they been
For as
there?
long as I can remember.
That is the point. I think we were not even born. That building was built by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And how many years? How many years ago?
But this is the Acting Director General of the Geological Survey Authority. He's the one that is explaining why Ridge is less prone.
How many? I am asking how many years? Are they telling us that maybe in the next 2 years or so we are going to face a serious earthquake with the proportions of what happened in Turkey? If not, then is it necessary, as you said, in this situation when things are so bad? Do we have to use $250 million? to build an office complex. What is in there? Is it bulletproof? What is it? They should tell us the component. Because you see, that kind of money is about 45% of the money that was given us as a first tranche. Do you understand? IMF gave us $100 million. And you are using $250 million to build. So it means we have money in this country. But you see, the point is that somebody wants to demonstrate it is part of democracy. It is one of the tenets and ingredients of democracy. You can exist, you need to exist on resistance. The resistance of going for demonstration to talk about what you feel is not good is better than somebody picking a gun to say, I don't like what is going on. Do you get me? So you allow people to demonstrate. They can bring out whatever the issues are, and you have to also deal with it. I was a bit surprised that why didn't he just come out and receive the petition? It would have ended it. And today, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, who was also, when Dr. Kwabena Dufo is speaking about economy, about issues with the Bank of Ghana, I always, delineate his NDC leanings. I dichotomize the two because he is an expert. So today he said it wasn't right for you to send the head of security. Send the secretary, who is the face of the bank. I don't know what they call their PR. Maybe their PR is the secretary. And I mean, when I read further, I noticed they was talking about their PR person. That is, send that person to come and take the petition. And besides, even if you are busy, you knew they were coming. Just leave one deputy to be around to collect it, and that is it. I have an issue with a minority in parliament taking a petition to him because it concerns him, and certainly it won't get anywhere.
So who should they have sent the petition to?
To the finance minister.
Why him?
Yes, because he worked with him. Who did he print the money for? To run he does not run the economy.
But they want the governor to resign. So if they take it to the finance minister,
well, but if
really there's nothing
my
that can
dear,
be
if
done
you
about
want
it.
me to resign, why do you send me a petition? That, to me, I didn't appoint myself.
So then they shouldn't go to the finance minister either.
Whoever appointed him, the president,
yes,
appointed him.
Yeah.
So either they go to the president and he works to the finance minister. They talk about autonomy. These days in this government current dispensation, autonomy does not work because they interfere in every institution, even the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, which is a purely independent commission. They interfere. So this autonomy they are talking about, it does not work. Do you get me? Besides, who wrote his appointment letter? Who signed it? Somebody said he didn't write it himself. So you need to go to the appointing authority and say that we do not need your governor. Do you get me? Okay. Make sure he resigns.
But he should have integrity to want to resign when things are not going on.
But you see the point, he says he will not resign. So now if you send him the petition, where will he go? He will dump it in his drawer. Okay, so if you give it to him and he will resign, Bella, who would resign on their own accord? Unless it is very dire. There are other ways to make him resign.
But we've seen people do that in other countries.
This is not
where government officials have resigned because something went wrong.
My dear, this is not other countries. So this is Ghana. So which other countries?
So what I'm saying is then we don't have integrity as a people. Because if you occupy a public office and clearly things are not going as they should under your tenure, you should bow out.
Then the first
and
person,
allow a more competent person to take over.
The first person should be the president, who said that he will put down his presidency if he can't fight Galamsey. Is he still not around?
So if he hasn't resigned, then none of his people will do it.
I am telling you that he hasn't even done reshuffle. The man has not even done reshuffle. Everybody is dadaba. They are all papa back. He has not done reshuffle ever since he came. Who has he changed? Only replacement. He hasn't done reshuffle. He himself said he will put his job on the line. He will leave. He will resign if he's not able to fight Galamsey. Today, Galamsey has bedeviled that everywhere the water is brown, black, yellow, green, everything. And he's still there. So you think that the governor will resign? Okay. So I do not think that, for me, I mean, practically, I don't see how the minority wants to even send a petition to him. So now I believe it is time for them to redirect their route to the person who is supposed to let him go. So if they send it to the person who's supposed to let him go, and that person does not do it, then they now have to come to the statutes, to the laws.
Okay.
Do you get me? That would enable them get him out, because suddenly he is even giving them a cue that there are other ways to get me out. Why don't you use it?
Okay.
So they should start looking for the other ways, but their petition should go to the appointing authority.
Prof, why is the NDC not using the other channels available to get him out? I mean, clearly the law states that if you are not happy with the governor of the Bank of Ghana, you have to go through a certain process. Okay, so that a petition gets to the president, he sends it to, you know, the head of the judiciary, and then if he establishes a prima facie case, a committee will be established, and then thereafter decisions will be made. Why are we not going through that route and we decide to protest? And now the governor says that I'm not going to resign even if you protest.
Yeah, good morning to our cherished viewers, to the NDC fraternity. I salute you this morning. And my people in Central Tongue, I salute you this morning. Women in Ghana this morning, I salute you as well. I want to say that we are in the month of October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you're a woman, I encourage you to go out and get your breast screened for cancer. Bella, it's really unfortunate the posture that the governor of Bank of Ghana has exhibited. And this just shows the level of arrogance of power. I always get surprised when I hear our MPP communicators or the MPP communicators always coming in defense of the wrongdoing in our society. What the governor said is just a picture of the reality of this current administration. Arrogance of power. As a leader, getting your priorities right is important. Getting priorities right is important. And that differentiates a good leader from a bad leader, or distinguish a good leader from a bad leader. And what the governor of Bank of Ghana exhibited just shows that he's a bad leader. Why am I saying so? At a time that the whole world is in crisis, or Ghana in particular, we're having challenges with our economy. You have the Bank of Ghana, you know, going to buy a gold watch that worth the taxpayers' money of $2 million. At a time that we're in crisis, he came to tell us that in 2022, he spent 131 billion Ghana cedis to take care of maintenance of vehicles. And then he comes to tell us that he's using $250 million to get new head office for
the Bank of Ghana.
The Bank of Ghana. And then you ask yourself, is this the time for you to build a new office? At a time that we are in crisis, or we're in crisis, you are going to spend a whopping $250 million to build a new office. This just shows that he got his priorities wrong.
He said this decision was made in 2019.
Yes.
When everything looked very great. And of course, you know, money wasn't hard to come by then.
Excuse me to say that there is an allergy, or there is a saying that goes that says that it's only a fool who does not change his mind. You have planned to do something, but something came up. Would you say that, let's assume that you plan to, maybe in a particular month, you plan to probably take your family out for a dinner that will cost you almost half your salary. But for some unfortunate reason, you have one of your kids admitted and you've spent almost half of your salary paying bills. Will you still send your family out for dinner because you have already planned to do that? I don't think he would do that. So, of course, the governor or the institution planned to build a new office. But for some reason, at the time that they wanted to start project, there were crises. So you cannot say that because we have planned to do this, we will continue. Let me just give you an example. In 2020, or before 2020, U.S. planned to acquire new Air Force One for the president. And then in 2020, this COVID strike, what did they do? They defer the purchase of the Air Force One because at that time, that wasn't the priority. Again, Australia bidded to host the Commonwealth Games. And at a point, they realized that they were having challenges in their economy. What did they do? They pulled out. That is a good leader. Those are the signs of good leadership or good leaders. So you cannot say that because I have planned to do this, I would do it at all costs. I don't think that is right. And it's unfortunate for him to have described the minority members of parliament as hooligans. That is really unfortunate. And I'm sure he is taking that stand because he is a beneficiary of what is happening. As the mother bank of Ghana, or Ghana's bank, you coming to tell us that you've run at a loss of 60 billion Ghana cedis. It's unacceptable. Remember, in 2017-2018, he led the financial sector cleanup. They collapsed banks because he said they were insolvent. Today, Bank of Ghana is broke. He has no business to still be there.
He has no business.
Look, if you're a CEO of a company and then you hire a manager to manage your company for you, the manager comes to tell you after 1 year that the company have run at a loss of 60 billion Ghana cedis. Will you still keep that manager? I don't think you will do that.
But to be fair, if you look at 2017, 2018, 2019, there was zero financing, from the central bank to government. Now, in 2020 and in 2022, they had to come in and finance. Now, if you look at that, he says that the reason why they had to release monetary financing to government was to meet some specific crisis, which, of course, is legal under the central bank law. So there was a reason why that money was released. And he says that for that reason, you cannot now say that we have not done the right job because we are the lender of last resort. Now, again, he says that the impairment of the central bank's debt holdings that caused the losses in 2022 was as a requirement of the IMF program. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have declared this high level of losses.
Look, Bella, the Bank of Ghana have rules and regulation governing it. Addison, or Governor Addison, have broken a lot of the rules. Before you print money, you're supposed to go to Parliament and get parliamentary approval. He failed to do that. There's a threshold that Bank of Ghana can't borrow to the government. Yeah. It's 5%. He's gone far more than that. I believe that he's a beneficiary of whatever he did. For you to have printed money, 2021, he printed 35 billion Ghana cedis. 2022, he printed 45 billion Ghana cedis. This is unacceptable. I mean, you cannot say that you would govern, you will govern Bank of Ghana by just printing money. And we saw the level of inflation. Last year, or the early part of this year, it went as much as 50.4%. Unprecedented. It's unprecedented. I mean, you cannot take inflation. Look at where they took it from. I remember during 2016, we were around 17, 18, and they were on top of the mountain shouting. Today, they are always blaming COVID, Ukraine war. And it's like NPP, they have scripts. Whether the topic is on COVID or Ukraine, they have to always mention it. Everything, they blame everything and everybody for the happening, except themselves. Because of bad leadership, we are where we are. I mean, they always compare Ghana to US, to Europe in general. Instead of talking about West African region, I mean, you cannot compare oranges and banana.
But Dr. Addison says he's not going anywhere. His deputies are not going anywhere.
Yes, he's...
Use other channels.
He's taking that stand because, you remember, last year, you know, people called for the head of the finance minister to rule. It didn't happen. It didn't because he is benefiting from whatever that is happening. Governor Addison is benefiting.
How is he benefiting?
Yes, he's benefiting in the sense that, of course, if I print money, if government come to tell me, oh, I want you to print this amount of money, without even going to discuss it, that this is how much we want to print for the government and parliament, and he just print it.
How is he benefiting from that?
Yes, let me tell you. If I give you money, won't I also take some? I just print. Nobody, in fact, it took minority, it took pressure from minority for them to even come and declare to Ghanaians how much they printed.
But we can't say for a fact that he took some of the money.
We don't have
any evidence to
I am
show that.
saying that our leaders are benefiting from the rot in society. And that is why there is that arrogance or arrogance of power. Remember the finance minister. Whilst Ghana was sinking, our economy was sinking, we're borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. We're becoming poorer and poorer as a country. His company was benefiting. And so it served as an incentive for him to borrow more. The same way, I believe, maybe...
So maybe it's not cast in stone that he's actually benefiting from it.
But because...
So this could be just what?
Because there is no way that a governor would want to break the rule of the institution.
So let's
because you are the leader of the institution.
He didn't go to parliament to get the approval, that's fine. But if we say that he probably might be benefiting from it, then that's us conjecturing when we don't have any evidence to indicate.
Yes, but I am saying that as a manager, your business is to make sure that whatever institution you are managing profits or there is growth in terms of the progress of the institution. But if your presence as a manager is making the institution worse off, you have no business.
He says he won't go. The NDC, of course, your side says that you keep protesting until you are able to give him the petition so he steps down. That clearly won't happen because he says he's not going anywhere. What other channels are you going to employ at this point?
Look, protest, I think, over the years has been the most effective channel by which individuals put pressure on demand or whatever they want in society, whether in an institution or in a country. And as our minority leader have indicated, the protest will continue unabated. Look, we are talking about the taxpayers' money. We are talking about Ghana's funds. It is not about NDC or MPP. We are talking about, and then, look, the day of protest, we should not overlook the fact that, yes, minority in parliament led the protest, but there were ordinary Ghanaians who went out there to also express their frustration. Whatever that's happening in the Bank of Ghana is not just affecting NDC, but it's also affecting all Ghanaians. We have a lot of youth unemployment.
Get them to the floor of parliament. Those who are in parliament, they should summon him to come to parliament and answer questions. Should they not do that? Anaya is here saying that really there's no need sending a petition to him to resign because he won't go. If you can, channel it through the finance minister or go to the president with your petition.
Look, Bella, let's not forget in this country that even MPP members of parliament protested against the finance minister. He's still at post. They told us that, oh, they just want him to, you know, lead the economic management team to have the deal with IMF, and after that, he will leave. He's still at post.
So if he's still at post, even when his own people protested,
exactly,
what can your protest do?
This government are not listening, or they are not a listening government, though they pretend that, oh, yes, we are hearing or we are listening government. It just shows the level of arrogance. The fact that Addison is saying that he will not resign. We want the world to know the kind of leadership. Okay. Whatever he says or whatever posturing he puts out there, it's just an indication of the current regime that we have as leaders of our country.
So the plan is not really to get him out because he won't go.
We want
because
him
the protest
out.
won't. But you just want people to understand that he's been a failed leader in the at Bank of Ghana. That's what you're saying.
The fact is that the protest is one.
Okay.
It's one way to express our frustration. But there are a series of plans that are ahead. We would, in the next few days, roll these plans out. But believe me or not, we would make sure that Addison leaves, because he and the NPP government have really impoverished us. They've made our life more, miserable than it was. And so, for that matter, I think that he has no business in that office.
Akosua, if you look at it, I mean, how do you print money and not go to Parliament to seek approval for that? Which should be the right way and the constitutional way to go about things? And now you're being asked to step aside and you're saying, no, I'm not going to do that. Does it mean that he's not ready to admit that to a large extent he's also contributed to what has happened?
Okay. I was trying to find the exact quote. It's fine. So I just want to go back to certain things she said on principle and leadership. If we are going to go on principles and leadership, then the members of parliament who jumped in front of the cameras to pontificate have no business doing so, because they have also experienced similar struggles in a certain tenor. They did. So if it's based on principles and showing good leadership, then I think she shouldn't even have offered to come and defend the NDC this morning.
I don't get what you're saying. So what? Are you talking about the NPP MPs or the...
I'm talking about the NDC MPs, especially Ato Forson, who was on the board. At the time that we recorded the worst performing currency, he didn't resign. So why is he calling for the resignation of the government?
But monies have been printed without parliamentary approval.
Monies were printed, one. Now, we've said it here. Till 2022, the Bank of Ghana reported profits. So let me give you the last 2019, 1.6 billion. And it was 2019 that they told us, because I don't work there, in a release that they earmarked an amount of money to build their edifice. So that money was ring-fenced. 2020, 1.5 billion. 2021, 1.4 billion. CDs. It's all CDs, please. Now, year on year, at least for the last 3 years, profits. Till 2022. What caused the 2022 problem? Primarily DDEP. We've had that discussion here. Bonds that did not just mature as a result of even if it was 2017, no. These dates back, as far back as possibly even Kufuor's time, Mills's time, GM's time. And for bonds is the surest bet of investment. But we know what happened. It's been explained. If we are saying that printing money, and you know commercial banks can actually request money to be printed from BOG. It exists. But it's not simply, they didn't just simply sit down and say, you want money, we're going to give you. No, they sat down. They actually convened a meeting. And that's why I'm saying that it's not outside of the law for the three bodies that actually sit to have a conversation of extending the lending rate. It's not outside of the law. If they believe that something untoward has been done, these are parliamentarians. What's the most powerful forum for you to engage? Is a parliament. Certainly not the protest that they had. Yes, it's one form for you to articulate your views, but you cannot articulate the views when you know inherently where properly you should channel those concerns. She mentioned gold watches in BOG. It's not something that is unique to a particular time. Year on year, they've had their own purchases. I'm sure that if we go into it, we will not be too happy with some of the things that they've done. But I think ultimately... But
that's the thing.
Let's call for... No, let's
Again,
call for
we keep
something.
coming back to what NDC may have done.
What bothers
And
me?
we always say that there's a reason why NDC was voted out.
So let's look at...
Because the NPP created this picture of heaven
so let's
for Ghanaians.
Create... No, let's hold...
And we are where we are.
We are going to hold
because we trusted your promises,
Bella,
and they didn't
hold
materialize.
Institutions accountable, but make sure that the things you want to hold them accountable to are things within their remit. So you can make the claim. I, for instance, I'm surprised that the governor, as CEO, quote unquote, also doubles as the chair of the board. That's not good corporate governance. It's not. So
at what point did you realize this?
But I don't make
No,
that
I'm just saying that, of course, you are saying it clear now. At what point did you realize it? Because I've never heard you talk about this. That's what I'm asking.
But why should I talk about it if there's no forum to talk about it? I don't just get up and talk.
But you
So
are
we're having that
you are a member
conversation
of
here.
the ruling
I'm not
party.
a member of the board. I don't make decisions as a ruling member of the party.
But you are a member of the ruling party.
I can
I'm just
articulate
asking that-
my views, and I'm doing so here. I'm
Okay.
saying that one, and I've given my indications on some of the things that they talk about. If we are talking about factors that affect inflation, including food, it's not BOG that plants maize or plantain to determine that. It doesn't come to them. Secondly, if you're going to have a conversation about him resigning, he doesn't appoint himself. Take it to the regular, take it to the rights authorities for that to happen. So it becomes a question of gimmicks and games. But at the end of the day, I disagree with the word hooligans ascribed to the protesters. He didn't do well. He didn't do well on that score. I will take no prisoners when it comes to that. Nobody can convince me that those were the appropriate words to use. There were, yes, and you see, this is where there's a problem, where you see a member of parliament of the NDC use unprintable language. You saw that. Subsequently, he said, I heard it wasn't him. Then later, he comes to apologize for that. Even for that, it took away from I would say, maybe disguised sincerity of the protest. You don't do that. But at the end of the day, there are issues that needn't have been brought to the governor. That's all I can say to that. But if we're going to have that conversation, the last is not out of place that the government went to BOG for support. It is not. It is part of their remit. In fact, if you look at the 2016 Act as amended, there are bits of it where the bank may even make advances and loans to the government on overdraft or in any other form that the board may determine. So if the board determines that, yet the governor is also what? Chair of the board. You see what I'm saying? But that is a different conversation. That's, of course, I don't make that determination. In the future, whatever can be discussed will be discussed. But it is not out of the remit for the three persons that can sit to make that determination to make it. The other bit went to Parliament, as Julie noted. There are evidences to that fact. Thankfully, I do not know why they blatantly ignored that fact and threw propaganda into the air that they had never notified Parliament. It's not true.
Okay.
Those letters exist.
Now, I'll let you come in finally on this one so that we can move on to our next conversation. What should be the way forward now?
Well, next time I'll keep time.
I'm keeping the time here, Nanaya. So I think I've done. I'm keeping the time
because I mean.
I think, to be fair, I've allowed you to speak even longer than Akosua today.
It's not true. It's not true.
And Prof has spoken longer as well. That's why I'm coming to you. So can you? I've been timing actually.
It's not true.
So it's part of it.
Nanaya. So what should be the way forward at this point? And finally, we can wrap up on that so we move on to our next conversation. On what to be done. Of course, he says he's not going. NDC says that they are going to still use other channels, but they will keep protesting.
And they'll keep protesting because he will not go. And the government, he says, will not let him go. So what tools can Parliament use to let him go? What ways and means? Because you see, the money we are talking about is over $3 billion. The same we are asking from the IMF. Can you imagine? And that is the loss. And they attribute it to all manner of things, COVID, DDP, all manner of things. And also, Prof said that they will benefit. Of course, they will benefit, not maybe as individuals, but the institution will benefit if money is printed and is used to, manage the economy. Certainly, some will be given to them to also run their bank. Certainly, you can't say that they will not benefit. He might not benefit personally, but who even knows how much is that money that has been printed, how much is in the $250 million for the building? You wouldn't know which percentage might be in there. So there be some benefit, not as personal, but corporately, institutionally, they would, it will also support their budget one way or the other. But you see, we don't have to set a precedent that will allow us to put the law into our own hands. And it's as if this government is very has the penchant to be doing that. And Parliament too has the penchant to start things they do not finish. The Speaker had a committee, ad hoc committee, to deal with issues surrounding Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. What happened? He's still in office. The majority of the MPP in Parliament, about 60-something of them, said they don't want Ken. Ken must go. What happened? He's still there. So how do you expect, if the main person is there, how do you expect a subordinate to leave? He said it categorically that he's not going, and you cannot use force to get him out of the office. So if he will not resign, then there should be other ways that he can resign or leave. I mean, that one, it will depend on the nation. But you see, this blatant form of arrogance and also the equalization, it is very unnerving and it is painful. Because if any least thing, then they go back. Sometimes they go as far back as Kwame Nkrumah's days. Then they start talking about it. This government does it. No, but that is why these people, the NDC, was voted out of power. So if you are doing the same thing as they did, then what is your business being in power? It means you don't have to be in power. You have no business being in power, because then you are repeating what we rejected. So you don't have any business being in power. Why do you always refer? Anytime there is an issue, instead of the MPP saying that, okay, we will do well to correct it, immediately they go back to the NDC and start referring. They've turned themselves into a research institute. So they will go into the past and bring out data which shows that it happened before. It happened before and we said, move. We don't want what you are doing. We say, go. Now you come in, you are doing the same thing. And you want to justify it by using what happened before as an equalization mechanism. How is that? Bella, tell me, how is that? You are doing things wrong. You don't want to consult anybody. You don't want to speak to anybody to help you. You have economists in your party, very good, astute people who can help you. You don't want them. You don't want Ghanaians to help you. When we speak, you insult us. Then you always refer. Oh, he was the chairman of the Bank of Ghana. So he was the chairman and he didn't do well, and we said, okay, go. Come, you say you are good. You give us jobs. You're a production, not taxation. You said all the nice in one district, one factory, free SHS. We said, okay, Ghanaians rejected CPP. Ghanaians rejected NDC. Ghanaians rejected PNC. Ghanaians rejected all the parties and said, MPP, come and rule us and make our lives better. You have not been able to do that. You always attribute it to Russia, Ukraine. My dear, the kind of money that came into this economy during the COVID period, it's as if COVID was a blessing. Even they didn't even manage the post-COVID very well. Instead of using the money to manage everything COVID, they use it to support the budget. And there's nothing to show for it. Absolutely nothing. When you take loans, when you take money, there's something to show. In Kwame Nkrumah's time, in CPP, our time, when we were in power, whatever money that we took, something showed. There was a Kosombona motorway, factories, everything. It showed clearly. This one, we can't see what is there. We cannot find it. I don't know whether it is shrouded in some black cloth and we can't see. Or today, Chairman Woon to me is appealing to government to do the Swami road.
So they should speed it up.
But how many years has that road been lying there? Why should they speed it up? Because of breaking the 8? Because they think that Ashanti region is the place that they will use to break this, so they can speed it up, and when it is election time, they go and cut the ribbon and say, we have done this. I mean, seriously, my dear, seriously. I mean, what even kicks my heart is the equalization. I left my wife, I left my husband, you have come in. Every moment you are referring to my ex, that, oh, your ex did it this way. So why did I leave the person to come for you? Because I thought you could do it better. I left everybody, rejected all these people, all these parties, and Ghana said, you, our sovereignty, keep. Look after it. Use it to make our lives better. And now this is where we are being insulted that we are hooligan. I mean, it's even possible that he himself didn't say that too. Maybe he got a call from some people who are like that in this government who told him that just call their bluff. I'm telling you, because the man doesn't look like somebody who will say that. Because all this time, he's never come out to say anything. So somebody just called their bluff. You see, Bella, yesterday, this song kept coming into my heart. We shall overcome. Deep in my heart.
Who are we overcoming? Or what are we overcoming?
The kind of subjugation. This government is supposed to be a democracy, is behaving like a junta.
So we're overcoming the MPP?
Yes, we have to overcome them and get our freedom. Economic freedom and political freedom. We need to let them go. Because you see, whatever they do, they think that whatever they do is right. They are not prepared to repent. They are non-repentant.
But is the CPP ready to take over?
Yes, we are ready.
Do you have the numbers to support?
But who has, when the MPP, did they have numbers? Even in 2000, we helped them. MPP, we forgot MPP was in opposition as the UP for almost 35 years. When the time is ripe, the time is ripe. It is our time to take over power, and we take over power and change this nation.
So the NDC doesn't stand a chance?
How can they stand a chance? Why do you think they stand a chance? We have been able to rule this country and rule it very. We have a track record. And we are going to take over. And we will make sure that the Ghanaian is good.
But Nana, the CPP hasn't performed too well in the last election.
No, but the UP tradition, did they perform? You see, the only party that had an opportunity and advantage was the NDC because they were coming from a certain kind of conglomeration. That is the revolution of a group. Do you understand? So they were able to get power. They are the only people who didn't have any history of staying in opposition for a long time. The MPP, the UP tradition, was in opposition for 35 years. They didn't have numbers. They won an election in 2000 when it was ripe. The time is ripe for the CPP to take power.
So 2024, CPP is taking over?
Yes.
Okay. Well, would you actually vote for the CPP? Are you convinced?
The last time I told Laratu and Sarah laughed and Isaac was born. I am telling Akosia the same thing.
Okay.
Sarah laughed and Isaac was
So
born.
this is Sarah?
Yes.
She's laughing. So CPP will be born in 2024.
I'm laughing because
to take over.
Even in by-elections, they don't feel the candidate.
But let's quickly, Prof, I'll let you come in shortly. But let me just quickly introduce our next conversation. Of course, we're talking about who should come over. The NDC is also very sure that come 2024, they are taking over the reins of power. The Electoral Commission has been speaking after they wrapped up on the limited voters registration. And yesterday, Dr. Srebo Kweku, who is the Director of Electoral Services, he says that the significance of the achievement, of course, has been very important to them because they've done a good job. In fact, they've been very efficient. If you look at the population of about 31 million and you have about 18 million people who have registered, it tells you that they've done a good job. It means we've captured more than 50% of the population. In fact, they say they have exceeded the limits that they had given themselves, which is about 700,000 people is where they were hoping to get to, but they registered about 900,000 people. So they've done a good job. In that case, yesterday there was an IPAC meeting. NDC again was absent from this meeting. How is that so, Prof?
Okay, before I come to that, I just want to make a few remarks. Governor Addison.
Honestly, on the matter of principle, I think he should resign honorably. Why am I saying so? As I earlier on mentioned, he led a group to collapse a number of banks. Why were these banks collapsed? They were collapsed because, according to his description, they were bankrupt. And today, Bank of Ghana is bankrupt. So why is he still there? Why is he? It means he has no principle. Is that what he is telling us? Look, today, just this morning when I was driving to this place, we're told that a lady was interviewed
a week ago.
A week ago on this issue of dialysis. And she passed on. She was interviewed on Friday.
Yeah.
And according to her, it's so difficult for the family to raise money for her to go through this process. Friday she was interviewed and she died on Sunday.
Yeah, the 16-year-old.
16.
Yeah.
Yes, she died. She died on Sunday. Why have they increased the price of the services for dialysis? According to the CEO, the consumables or the tools they need, prices of these tools have gone up, or equipment have gone up. One of the reasons is that the subsidies that they used to enjoy or the exemptions on some taxes have been removed. Government is not taxing some of these equipment that they import. How can we be so insensitive?
Can we get into this conversation? I know that's equally important, but I'm asking
I am
this
just
because
connecting it to this.
Okay.
That government could not subsidize equipment that people need to save their life or to be alive. And you have a governor of a Bank of Ghana blowing away 60 billion, and he tells us that to hell, I am not living. And we think it's right.
But the NDC believes that they are coming into power. And so that's why questions have been asked that this is another IPAC meeting that's been held after the limited voters registration exercise.
Should we
and you were
continue
not
to
there.
suffer to go through these excruciating hardship until 2024? For Addison to keep messing our economy?
Is that why you didn't go for the IPAC meeting?
Well, coming to talk about IPAC meeting, you see, these are all issues of arrogance of power, and that is why we are where we are as a country. Again, why did NDC decide that they would not go to IPAC? It's because of this arrogance of power. Okay, that's one of the reasons. IPAC meeting is meant for political parties to come to consensus in terms of maybe some decisions or the process to arrive at some results in terms of maybe some certain process. Now, you go to IPAC meeting, the posturing of EC is like that, well, this is what we want to do. We are informing you. You may take your position, but this is our position and we stick to our position. I mean, if you have that posturing, I think it's not worth for NDC to go and sit there. Why? Because if whatever NDC suggests is rubbish or is not taken into consideration, then why are you inviting them? If it's just the issue of just informing them on an issue or your position on a particular process, then you must as well just write to them that this is what we want to do. You see, as a matter of principle, if you come to a meeting or if NDC is present and a certain decision is taken that is not even in accordance with what the party thinks, what EC comes to say is that, oh, we agreed that we are doing it this way. But in actual fact, there were some resistance, but they will not take it into consideration and come out to tell the public that, oh, we agree, we had a meeting and we all agree that we're doing it this way. So as a matter of principle, if you wouldn't, take my suggestion into consideration, then I have no business.
But that's the issue. And I'll come to Nanaya before I come to Akosua to wrap up. Nanaya, I'll come to you because yesterday, CODEO spoke on this matter and they were saying that even as at the time that the EC was, touting its achievements and saying that they did an incredible job by even exceeding their target, the political parties that were present at the IPAC meeting did not really raise any objections. So he wonders why openly you come out and say that, okay, we're not happy with A, B, C, and D, but in a meeting where you're supposed to raise your concerns, you were all quiet and you sort of agreed to the fact that the EC said they had done a good job. Nanaya?
My dear, if I was there, I would have asked, but I wasn't there, unfortunately. I would have asked the question that, what is the basis of your success? When you told us initially that you are doing 1.5 million, that is your target, and you reduced it to 700, and you did 900, it's still abysmal. Because you said you are doing 1.5, and even on the last day of the voting, the registration, vote early. On the last day of re-registration, there were still long queues. That you even extended the time to the next day. That is not an achievement. I wasn't there. I would have asked that question. Now, because initially, that was your target, 1.5 million. And now you reduced it to 700 when you saw the challenges. And now you said 900, you have done well. What happened to 1.5? And you said because of that, you are doing continuous registration. If you are unable to do it, it's a human institution, but you do not tout as if you have achieved to a certain level. You have to accept that there were failures. You have to accept that we could not get to a 1.5, but we were able to do 900, which was good for us in the midst of the challenges we found ourselves. In that way, it is acceptable. But for you to say that you have achieved and you are clapping for yourself, that is not good enough.
Nana, the CP had a rep at the meeting yesterday.
I wasn't there.
So you don't know if they raised some of these concerns?
Yes, it's possible they raised it. And I know the person who went would raise it. And I don't know what Kodeo is saying because I was at another meeting. So the point is that then we would find out what actually happened, because I know that the people who represent us when I am not around, we go, I mean, we all say I am a permanent fixture and other people come with me. My organizer, if he was there and he was supposed to be there, would raise it. I know Moses Mambo Ambin will raise it and ask these questions because he was part of the people who asked questions initially when we went for the meetings and they said they wanted to do it at the district level. They should even understand that having the registration at the district had its challenges. Why are they not addressing that one? Nobody is competing with them. They are an institution that can have challenges. So you needn't come and say you have done well. You needn't come and say and mark yourself 100%. It is not necessary. The marking will be done by the people on the ground. How did they feel?
Okay.
Were they able to register? Were they comfortable at the locations of registration? Were they able to get what they want? Were they happy? That is what will dictate whether you did well or you did not do well. And you see, Bella, give me a few minutes to talk. My heart is down.
We don't have time. We have to let Akosi also speak.
No, just a minute. It's more important, please. This girl who is gone, it is it's an indication of failure, a systemic failure of our health system. Because I watched this lady, and she was just a 16-year-old. The fact that even this kidney disease is affecting young people, we need to do something.
Okay.
And I believe that we need to use the COVID levy. We should use the COVID levy to start a dialysis or a critical disease fund.
Okay.
Do you get COVID-19 levy? A critical disease fund. Parliament should look at this critically as a matter of urgency.
All right. Thank you. Akosia, so how is it that the EC is setting its own questions and marking itself?
I'll just speak on the registration exercise. So when the registration exercise started, during that period, I organized a health screening in Adenta in all the 16 electoral areas. And most of the people that came through were young people. And interestingly, in conversations with some of them, I tasked my team members to engage them on whether they had registered. If not, to facilitate them being conveyed to the center. There were a group of 4 girls who, I think it was around 4 p.m. that day. They saw me standing next to the banner and came to me and said, "Oh, we saw you standing, we just wanted to say hello." I said, "How old are you?" And they said, one said she was 23, another said 22. I was like, "Oh, do you have your voter's ID card?" She said she's never voted before. Now, when you look at the age gap, it should have indicated that at least they should have voted once before in their life. They were not even aware that a registration exercise was going on. So the PR from the EC's bit is poor. I would even acknowledge a weakness also from both political parties. Whichever way we are mobilizing, we are not mopping up young people.
You mean all the political parties?
All the political parties we are to blame, because irrespective, I didn't ask them, are you MPP or NDC? It didn't matter to me. I honestly believe every young person needs to exercise their right to vote. But to do that, you need that registration, you need that card. So it was to take them to the EC's office to get them in Adenta, to get them registered, which it took quite some time. But I would commend the EC office in Adenta. It started with 3 machines, later extended it to 4. Naturally, those with Ghana cards move faster than those without. The Ghana system, there were delays in that. I believe that the calls for it to phase off eventually is called. But one part one party absents itself and then has reservations on decisions that are taken or a policy direction that is being implemented. I think that for us to deepen our democracy, it's important that even if you disagree with the EC, you represent, because you are representing people, not just your own personal interests. Yeah. And so absenting themselves is a no-no.
Okay.
I believe that it's gone on long enough. Let's come to the dialysis quickly.
Okay, just 30 seconds,
30 seconds on that. I believe that I think it's necessary for dialysis treatment to be put on the NHIA to cover the vulnerable. There are so many people that I've helped in the past with paying cost of treatment. And the treatment, look, is moved from, I had a dear friend's dad die in Korle Bu. This was literally 15 years ago because the taps were closed and they couldn't clean up machines. That's, and I was asking, don't you have a polytank? Because polytanks are like basic, but it was interesting that it was just a management problem. Now, if we are moving from management problems to costs, there are several ways, logistics in itself. Look, Bella, anybody can get sick in no time, and sometimes the best place to go to is Korle Bu. If these considerations are not being made, then we have a problem. So I believe that the dialysis treatment should be covered
by COVID levy.
That's a conversation for Parliament to make.
Okay. Well, let's see how that goes. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Akosua Manu is the Deputy CEO for the National Youth Authority. Nana Achimpim Janto is the General Secretary for the CPP, and Professor Benedicta Fosu-Mensah is a member of the communications team for the NDC. Now, how do you dispose of your used electrical and electronic equipment? Do you know that improper disposal of used and waste electrical and electronic equipment is a health and environmental risk? So the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, is conducting a national inventory and situational analysis of electrical and electronic waste, popularly known as e-waste, of established so they're establishing the actual volumes of e-waste in the country. The results of the inventory will inform policy interventions, business promotion, and inform appropriate treatment options within the e-waste value chain. So for this reason, enumerators will be in the field, to take inventory of both functioning and waste electrical and electronic equipment in households, private and public institutions. And the exercise will take place from Monday, October 2. So it's already started. It will end on October 11th, 2023. Okay, in the Greater Accra region, Bono East, Ahafo, Ashanti, Eastern, Central, Western North, and the Volta regions. Enumerators will wear reflective vests with and possess a photo identity card for identification. We kindly urge the general public to support and cooperate with the enumerators for a successful exercise. We'll be back with more. Roland is in Jamestown at the moment, and today he'll be speaking to a fisherman to find out what his life is like on a daily basis. And later, Nashoko will be speaking to our GMB finalists to speak to them, of course, on what the expectations are and what they have for you come the finale this Sunday. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In the first 2 years, your baby will experience amazing growth in so many ways. To fuel it, they need the right nutrition. With Cerelac, one bowl of goodness a day provides the wholesomeness of carefully selected grains and the yummy taste baby loves. Cerelac is fortified with Iron Plus, contributing to your child nutritional needs. Cerelac, it's all good, Mom. This advert is FDA approved.
Jackpot of the week. Place bets and hit the jackpot. Log into the 1xBet account. Click on the Take Part button. Place bet and take part in the jackpot draw. Give your luck a chance. Use promo code to get a bonus on your first deposit.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
Oktoberfest is here again. Ghana's premier 5-star hotel and your CMG hospitality facility of the year. Labadi Beach Hotel brings you another exciting edition of the biggest beer festival in the world, Oktoberfest 2023. Performing live is the Bayern Boys Band from Germany. For the fun with German traditional food and beer at the plush Labadi Beach Hotel on the 6th and 7th of October 2023. For enquiries and reservations, please call 0302-772-501 or 0249-532-866. Oktoberfest Beer Festival. Come, let's party! Stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA.
It's Dr. Ray on the beat.
Staying on top of the game requires a special kind of skill. Jacinta is back with another comedy special dubbed Woman on Top.
To discuss with Presido when I meet him one-on-one, face-to-face, height to height. Let's talk. Let's be serious. Now, so Presido, disturb us for this country. Year of return. You return everything. You don't return our virginity.
Come experience a night full of humor and relaxing music by Kwampa Band. Performing comedians are Jacinta, Foster Roman, General Ntatia, Kemika, Kutogo, and Cleanse the Drum. Join us at the National Theatre on Saturday, 7th October 2023 at 7 p.m. sharp. Tickets are selling for $350 premium, $250 VIP, and $150 regular. Dial *447*2219# to purchase your tickets on all networks or call 026-193-109. Sponsored by Accra City Hotel, Yango, Ebony Condom, M Notify, Cocktail Laboratory, BF